Okay, excellent. Well, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So I'm looking forward to getting into your life as a writer and cinematographer. And before we do that, I want to ask you about the pandemic. 5 years ago, it was changing the world in every possible way for all of us. How did you get through it, and how did it change the way that you live life today?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic came in the middle of grad school for me. And so it was an interesting time. Going to film school and not being able to do that hands-on was incredibly hard, but it also gave me something to be focused on and still applying myself towards during that time while at home, which was great. I really think that what kept my sanity was I got really into cycling. I'd been making a documentary about cycling in LA right before the shutdown. We actually had to stop shooting. We still had a bit more to shoot. And we had to stop because of the pandemic. But I kept out on the streets because it was something that I could do pretty safely still through the shutdown, and finding a way to still be outside and out in the world, which was, a privilege that I had being a person who, you know, was relatively healthy and like could be out there cycling and, not like being irresponsible in that way, but I was able to be outside and that was really nice. So that really got me through, I think that, and just having to continue to apply myself at film school, even though it was all online. Yeah, my cats attended film school with me because they love whenever I'm on Zoom. I think a tail already showed up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we did film school together and it was great.
Yeah. Well, I'm a cat guy, so I always notice the cats coming in. So I love it when I see the tails and hear it. They're always interested. It's the curiosity.
Yeah.
So let's get to the heart and soul. I know you have your debut novel and you're in the world of film, but if I was to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Yeah, well, when it comes to film and cinematography, I kind of simplify it as just like the person who holds the camera, which is not always even the case for a cinematographer, but I think captures the essence of it because it's figuring out the framing and the the tonal aesthetic of the visuals. And so yeah, I would say I'm the one who holds the camera and points it at things. And then, I also write and live in other make-believe worlds when I'm not on set. So that's kind of the two sides of what I do.
So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream life?
At 12, I think I probably would have said either a doctor or a veterinarian because my dad was a vet and his dad was a vet. And like, I love animals, obviously. I have three cats.
Yeah.
And I think I would have said one of those two. But I realized that if you're a veterinarian, you have to put animals down, which was something that I did not want to do. I was like, oh, I'll just have pets. I don't need to be a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always loved storytelling. I used to get in trouble in elementary school for writing stories instead of paying attention in class. And I was really shy growing up, and really through community theater is where I like found my voice. Like uh, the arts have always been very present for me, and the older I got, the more I realized I didn't really want to live a life where that wasn't a huge component of it. And then I guess I'm just foolhardy enough that I've decided to try to make a living out of it. So, yeah.
So are you from LA originally?
No, I'm from Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from Phoenix, moved out here for undergrad at Pepperdine and never left. The weather's nicer out here. My parents ended up even following me out to Southern California. No shade to Phoenix, but the 115-degree summers are not my
Yeah.
favorite
Yeah.
thing.
So let me ask you this. What was it about growing up and going from being wanting to be a veterinarian to getting into film and to actually handling the cameras and writing? How did that evolve and become your career?
Well, acting was the gateway drug, I think. I was acting in high school. I went to college actually for theater. But I wasn't getting cast as much as I would like, and so I ended up being like, okay, well, me and my friends will just do it ourselves. We'll make some things and put us in it. And I fell in love with the process of filmmaking, the process of being behind the camera. And I fell in love with writing for film. I'd already been in love with writing prose. I just had never tried to make a living based off of that. It's just something that I always did on the side and in the background. But I fell in love with being behind the camera during undergrad, which, led to me eventually getting my MFA in film. And I act on occasion. I was in a web series that I produced and wrote with a friend that is just coming out this year. But the main focus really turned to the nitty gritty of being behind the camera and making things happen. So yeah, I mean, I think acting led me there, as it did a lot of people I know, in all
Yeah.
honesty. It's a lot of former theater kids who have been looking for ways to be creative, and then it's great. It's staging a play that lasts for perpetuity. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your favorite film or favorite play production growing up that made you want to be an actress?
Oh man. I mean, I was in a lot of things growing up, but the most special one to me was A Streetcar Named Desire. My high school really focused on doing like the classic, like 1950s Tennessee Williams, Arthur Miller, like the Eugene O'Neill, the heavy hitter American classics. Streetcar's obviously a little bit older than 1950, but we put that on my senior year, and I was Blanche Dubois at 18. And it was like a life-changing moment for me. I'd never been a part of something that I was so passionate about and that pushed me so hard. And I think that has stuck with me, whether it's through acting or filmmaking, writing. I'm just addicted to finding that thing that pushes me to my limits and makes me feel like I'm doing the absolute best that I can give to something. I'm still obsessed with A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah.
I would really love, even though I have not been acting as much, I would love when I'm actually the proper age to play Blanche, to stage a production and do Streetcar again. Tennessee Williams has always been a huge inspiration for me. So yeah, that one has always been a special one that has, I think, will always have a its own place in my heart.
What about books? I mean, what was the book that you absolutely loved growing up?
Oh man. I mean, I read really broadly as a kid, and I really appreciate that my parents like fostered in me a daily reading habit. We used to read together as a family for years and years. Like when I was, older than I needed to be read to, we still had this tradition. It was, oral storytelling. It was great. I think it was one of the main things also that led me to wanting to be a storyteller myself. But I mean, some of the things that we were reading that stuck with me and in my imagination at the time were, of course, like the Harry Potter books, which were coming out as I was growing up. And now I have a complicated relationship with my love for Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling. But the books themselves, as a kid, were very magical and really sparked in me such a love for fantasy. And so those were big. We read like the Aragon books. I loved dragons as a kid. Like it was a lot of fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, and that just big epic storytelling, which is actually some of my favorite kinds of film too. Um, just something on an epic scale.
So are you a photographer as well?
Yeah, I'm a photographer as well, mostly as a hobbyist and for my own pleasure. But I also think that being a cinematographer, I'm constantly looking at the world in a very particular visual way, and it's nice to keep honing those skills when I'm not on set by having a frame literally with me at all times to continue to look at the world in that way. So yeah, I take my camera with me whenever I go somewhere new, and it's a an important part, I think, of the just creative day-to-day process.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was asking because I take a lot of photos. I started doing the dark room when I was in high school, and I've always
Nice.
loved photography. So I would think being in that position of film that you would just be thinking about how to capture this world in very unique ways.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I'm trying to capture it in unique ways, but and I love that you have always been in the dark room. That's something that I want to get back to. I have gotten out of shooting like actual film for a
Yeah,
while. I've been
yeah,
in the digital world. But there's a lot of dark rooms that you can just like rent for an hour here in LA, which is great. And I'm wanting to get back into film photography. I have an old just Canon AE1
yeah.
that I got from a pawn shop years ago. And it's just this like little banger 35 millimeter camera. And I love to take it out on the street. It's just been a while since I've done it.
Yeah, that's cool. So, who's been your hero? Who's been your inspirational force to find your voice in your profession in your life?
That is hard. I feel like I've had a lot of heroes, both people that I've personally known and also people that I don't know, but I look up to a lot. And I think that they're so disparate across the different fields that I am a part of. Oh man, it's hard to just single out one. I mean, if I'm gonna go cinematography route and someone that I've had the pleasure of getting to meet but not super know or have a relationship with, I would say Rachel Morrison, the cinematographer and now director. Um, she has been able to do such important work that has a social message to it, but also is so incredibly aesthetically interesting. And I think the intersection of making art, but also being able to make it topical to the issues of the day are really is really, the sweet spot that I would love to, find myself in one day. And while the industry is changing a lot, there's a lot fewer successful female cinematographers than male. And so I think I find myself really putting on a pedestal anyone who has managed to do that as a woman. And I mean, they're all phenomenal artists as well. Like Mandy Walker is a big one for me. Um, yeah, I feel like there's no paucity of inspiration on the cinematography side to look up to as people whose careers and who also have the kind of personalities that I would like to have as an artist. I think a lot of cinematographers are incredibly generous with their time, and are willing to, tell people exactly how they do things. And I think that that generosity is something that I really admire about the field in general of cinematography. And then when it comes to books, and like authors that I idolize, it's gonna be like it's gonna be not as modern. It's gonna be like Dostoevsky is my ideal.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
literally my first tattoo was Brothers Karamazov tattoo. It's an onion from the Brothers Karamazov, the Parable of the Onion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm obsessed with Dostoevsky and I think that as a writer, he is my hero.
So if you could be a fly on the wall and watch whether it's a filmmaker or a writer just create the way they created the process, which you know is a separate entity, and especially both of those crafts, you just don't see it that often. You might see snapshots, but who would you love to see in their prime creating their art?
I might go completely separate from any of the ones I just said and say David Lynch because I think
Yeah.
that being on set with David Lynch would have been such a transformative and just really amazing experience. He's one of the filmmakers I admire the most, and I just can imagine the environment of creativity and openness to different ideas that must have been the case on his sets. Yeah, I think it would have been extremely fun to see David Lynch in action.
Well, and that was the thing I was thinking about with the photography. I'm a huge Lynch fan too, and
Uh-huh.
the way that he did things and just things that I don't think people were even processing with the way that the the lights would bump on the road, and just kind of how he would emotively put in shifts in the camera and all of that. It was just, it created the absolute mood. I mean, not only was it confusing and you had to draw your own conclusions, but there was a lot of things that he was doing that were right in front of you that were almost subconscious the way he did it.
Oh yeah. Every part of a Lynch film, the soundtrack, the way the camera moves,
Yep.
the lighting, it all just works together to create emotion, I think, more powerfully than almost any other filmmaker.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just exciting. Someone who's willing to draw on like all the senses that you can to really affect someone emotionally. It's really cool art.
Yeah,
I like
it
it a lot.
certainly is. So what is it that gets you up every day to create this? I mean, being in film and being in writing, that those are hard professions. It's just they're difficult realms to get into. But what is it that motivates you to create and to continue to evolve as an artist every day?
Yeah, it's interesting choosing to pursue this. I complain about it a lot because it is really hard.
Yeah.
But I also just the thing is I feel like what I want to do with my life is make people see different viewpoints, make people feel less alone in the world. Uh, Consuming films and books has always been such an important part of my internal life. And maybe that's also partially being an only child. Like growing up, I was quite the bookworm. And I want to create things that give other people a chance to see themselves reflected more, to see people different than themselves reflected. That's what really excites me, is like the possibility of opening people's perspectives through storytelling. And that is what I've always that's what I strive for. And that's what I hope the best of my work can do. Um, and yeah, other than that, like other than I guess that's like the noble cause, and other than that, it's just fun. Like I truly love it so much that it's hard to see a version of my life where I'm not trying to do that as much as possible. And since I have to make a living somehow, it seems a good way to try to do
Yeah, for
it.
sure. So let me ask you this. There's always these moments as a creator where you get some level of validation that makes you think I made the right choice or I want to continue to do this. What was the piece of writing that you put out into the world that you got a reaction for and you felt like, all right, this makes sense. I can do this.
I think there's been a lot of little pieces of validation along the way. And then for some reason, I just have a very stubborn belief in myself when it comes to writing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a few things published in my collegiate literary magazine in college, and uh, some of my short film scripts got like chosen for things at USC. And so there were always signs that like okay some people are enjoying my work and want it out there, which is awesome. But I'd never embarked on something of the scale of the novel before, so I'd never had a chance to get that level of affirmation or that level of uh just rejection, which I'm used to because that's the film industry, is a lot of rejection. But I think more than anything, I just have this stubborn self-belief in my work despite uh, all odds. And I think you have to have a little bit of that delusional sense if you want to try to make a living as an artist in general. Because yeah, I had never done anything on the scale of the book, and I just decided to keep going at it because I thought it was worthwhile.
So it will last longer as the debut. Talk to me about the book.
Yeah, so the book, I started it during the double strikes that shut down Hollywood in the end of 2023. Uh, no one was giving me the opportunity to be on set, and I was frustrated that my career is something that I have to be greenlit to be creative by other people. And so I was like, you know what? I always am writing in my spare time. What if I really lean into this and give it the time and respect it deserves? Because I can't be on set anyway. And I just kept writing. I was scared to call it a novel for a long time because that felt very daunting. But I just had this story that I was tinkering with, and it just kept getting longer and longer. And then eventually I had to tell myself, oh, yes, this is a novel. And what it ended up being is this character study, kind of gritty noir Los Angeles story about a fine art photographer who's struggling to find work in LA. She stumbles across a crime scene in a back alleyway, takes a photo compulsively because it's very aesthetically pleasing, posts it online. People are like, that's an awful, awful thing to do until the photo helps the cops solve the crime. And then uh she gets a little bit of notoriety and people are like, oh, maybe she's a hero. And through that she meets an eccentric Hollywood producer who's trying to bring back the idea of death portraiture, which was really big in the 1800s, staging dead loved ones with their family members, and taking photos of it. So she kind of gets swept into this underworld of photography in LA, and it just follows her down that rabbit hole of finding the murky line between what is acceptable and not in art. And yeah, it's
That's interesting. That's very cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing those old photos where people would do that. They would stage shots, and it just, I mean, with so many things, like even playing the movie Bad News Bears right now would bring so many levels of scorn from society. It's like things that we used to do just aren't going to pass today, and that would be one of the things, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's this old photograph that I've always found really interesting called The Most Beautiful Suicide. And it's I might be saying the time wrong. I think it's the 1940s. This woman threw herself off the top of the Empire State Building, and this photography student took a picture of her body on top of this limousine at the bottom, but the top is crinkled in a way that it looks like satin sheets, and there's no blood or anything. It just looks like she's sleeping
Yeah,
on top of this car, and it's very surreal, and it's a really interesting photograph, but it's always really intrigued me why anyone having just witnessed this horrific thing
yeah,
would think, oh, I have my camera, let me snap a photo. I like it's just, I would not think that whatsoever. And so trying to put myself in the mindset of someone who would do that. And the photo like took America by storm. It was like on the cover of Time, I believe, or at least in Time. And like it was a very famous photo at the time. And people were very drawn to it. And it's just wild to think about. And I think also there's no way that that would have become such a famous photo
yeah.
today. And I'm not trying to put a value judgment on that as better or worse. Just it's a very interesting story to me, and so
That
that's kind of what inspired me to start thinking about that in the modern era.
that's fascinating. So let me ask you this: of everything that you've accomplished up to this point and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
I think professionally, the thing I'm proudest of is the book,
Yeah,
because it is such a personal act and decision on a day-to-day basis to continue with something that you're making when there's not that outside push or validation, like being hired for a job. There's films that I'm so proud of my work on and so proud of what we've accomplished collaboratively. But there's also that external, okay, I've gotten hired. I have signed a contract. I am doing this thing that other people are pushing me to do as well. But sitting down on a day-to-day basis by yourself in front of a laptop and pushing through and being like, I'm going to continue with this until I think I have a finished piece of work is a different beast. And I'm very proud of myself for slogging on through that and finishing it when it is like such a personal process. And then, I mean, after the first draft, it becomes a lot more collaborative and getting notes and editing and all of that. But getting through that first draft is a lonely endeavor, and I'm just really proud of myself for doing that, and I am very happy with the finished product. I really like my book. So
I dig it. That's cool. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, colleagues, fans, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, do I know myself? I always say that how I describe myself is as a storyteller at the basic level, because whether it's film or writing or what have you, I'm I'm usually living in this creative world of trying to uh, make some sort of story reach the world in different ways. So I would say storyteller is a big part of it. Other than that, if I'm like describing myself, some of the most important parts are just then relating me to the other people in my life. Because, like, I mean, I am very passionate about storytelling, but things that I find to be most important about being a human are, my relationships with others. So hopefully, I'd like to describe myself as like a good wife, a good friend, a good cat mom. At least a dedicated one of all of those. Yeah, I mean if that's all I'm known as, that would be great because in the end, those are the people and animals that I love and get to spend my day to day
Right
with.
on. So let me ask you this. It will last longer. Let's say it's adapted to a screenplay and you get to pick the main actor, actors, actresses. Who's going to lead the march on the silver screen for this?
Oh, wow. So I've thought about this a lot.
Okay.
It's my main character, Viv Klein. It's really hard for me to fan cast her because I have such a particular view of her in my mind. I don't know. Like physically, I think Renee Rapp would be like, really a good comparison, but I've only seen her do more comedic roles. Maybe
Yeah.
this could be her dramatic breakout if she
Yeah.
wanted to move back away from her singing career and back into acting a bit more. She
Yeah.
was on Broadway, so I believe she has the chops there and there. Yeah, maybe that could be her dramatic turn,
Sure.
her go for the Oscar. I don't know. I've like thought about that a lot, and no one feels exactly right. And I think that's always going to be the case. Honestly, my creepy producer man, Jeremiah, I would cast him as John Malkovich.
Okay.
That would be the dream casting. Honestly, I see him so much as John Malkovich.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's actually probably the one that I feel like most strongly about. I don't know, Abby, which is my other main character, the journalist. I feel like with her sass and wit, I don't know, I could see Jenna Ortega. Um, yeah, but I
Okay.
mean,
That's it.
I just would be happy if it got adapted into a movie one day. So John Malkovich, if you're
That's
listening.
it. I love it. That would be cool. So the debut novel, it will last longer. If anybody wants to pick up a copy or delve into any of your other creative endeavors, your world, where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, you can see everything about my film and my writing endeavors on tarasandersbrooks.com. You can pre-order the book now. It's available widely on September 16th. It's up on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So yeah, there's a hard not wow, there's not a hardcover. Let me not lie. There's a paperback version and an ebook, both available on both Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And so those are probably the easiest ways to pick up a copy, unless you're in Los Angeles. On September 18th, I'm having a book launch at the Hop Pop in Highland Park, and there will be physical copies being sold there that night.
Okay.
So.
Excellent. Well, best of luck. It's exciting. The first book, it's always such a wild ride. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking a minute out and best of luck with the release.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.